C. We all agree. How about the letter B? Another guy said, well, why don't we call letter B Sush? Shush in Navajo means bear. How about the letter C? The letter C, they decided to call it Massa. Massa in Navajo means cat. We begin to catch on now. Letter D. They call it B. B in Navajo means deer. So, with each letters of the English alphabet, they were using words that they're familiar with, like the first one, A, ant. Why ant? Well, let's choose because it starts with A in English. And then B, shush. Why shush? Because bear starts with B. Musset, cat, C. All the way down. They discuss these words first among themselves and agree upon what words to say, to use, so they, all of them will remember that. Some letters, they have difficulty agreeing as to what to call them. For instance, the letter J. The letter J, they had some difficulty agreeing as to what to call it. Eventually, they agreed upon the word Kelly Chunky. Kelly Chunky in Navajo means jackass. It was a code word for the letter J. On down to Z. Z, it was suggested at first to be called Nashteze. Nashteze in Navajo means, is the name of the tribe just south of us here, Zuni. So another person said, no, no, no. Zuni may not like us to use their name, so let's choose another word. So they end up with the letter Z, calling it Beshdoch. Beshdoch in Navajo means zinc. We have some zinc here on Navajo, very familiar with it. So, getting that done, getting the English alphabet in line with Navajo code words, which only they know. No one on the outside knows. So, with that, they move on to the next phase of developing code words. All the military terms that were in use at that time, they began to create code words for them, like all the different ships, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, aircraft carriers, submarines. We don't have them out here, so we don't have any words for them. So they had to create code words for each of these. Battleship, salt, big fish. Submarine, fish salt in Navajo means iron fish. That would be submarine. City name, yeah, meaning one that carried birds would be aircraft carrier. So with all those different ships named, given code names, they went on to the next groups of airplanes. There are all kinds of airplanes. Bombers, observation planes, dive bombers. Dive bombers, they decided to call it Guinea. Guinea in Navajo means chicken hawk. Why chicken hawk? Because there's a lot of chicken hawks on Navajo. When you herd the sheep out here, back in those days, the sheep settles down, you sit on a rock and just look around, you watch these birds fly around. The most interesting one is always the chicken hawk. Guinea. They fly around looking for a rabbit. And they see a rabbit way down there, and they dive down, and they have a nice lunch. So we were told that dive bomber behaves the same way. So the name Guinea for dive bomber. And then names for all other military equipment, like artillery, tanks, hand grenade. Hand grenade, no, none of these we've seen here on Navajo. We don't know what they are until we got there. So hand grenade, we decided to call it no mussy. No mussy in Navajo means potato. Hand grenade looked like a potato. So So that became the word for hand grenade. And on down the line, the various organizational structure of military, like division, regiment, battalion, company, platoon. We have no words for it on that one because we never had an army. So create code words for these. For all the organizational structure, clan system was used. Each one like the battalion would be not paid the Mexican clan. Company, Ashkishni, one clan, things like that. It took them 8 weeks to create 260 code words. This is 1962 now. So in June of 1962, they have created 260 code words. There's 29, the initial group that were authorized by the Commandant. Every Friday they had tests. Those of us that came in later, we went through the same thing. Every Friday we had a test. So they divide the group into Group A and Group B. They give a message to send to Group A to Group B. Group B listens, they write down what the message is sent, and they compare to see if they're exactly alike. Well, after 8 weeks, they had a final test, Group A and Group B. Group A was given a message to send to Group B. They came out, they look at it, very, very much alike with one exception. The exception is punctuation marks. The punctuation marks were not there. So they went back to the classroom, started creating words for each punctuation marks used. A period, no problem. That is in like that. Semicolon, that is in that say not there. A black dot that lost its tail would be semicolon. Question mark, a job, ears, because question mark looks like ears. So with all the punctuation marks now have code words. So back to Group A and Group B. Group A was given a message all this time. There were Marine Corps and Navy communication specialists watching what's going on here. So they are the ones that developing code messages to send to Group B. Group B writes it down. After this session, they saw it. It was like a Xerox copy of the message that was sent earlier. Perfectly, exactly alike. So they were satisfied now that they got a code that could be used. So, with one exception, one of the Navy code specialists said, you only have one word for each letter of the English alphabet. This is not good, because the enemy is very smart. Like the word Guadalcanal has 4A in it. So you cannot go and say for the first A, Wulachi, the second A, Wulachi, Wulachi, Wulachi. Then they know there's repetition. How frequently it comes, they can decide. So they wanted 2 more additional words for each letter of the English alphabet. So, back to the classroom. The letter A first would be called Wulachi Ant. The second letter A that you come to, you call it Belasana. Belasana is apple. the third A you come to, you use Tsenit. Tsenit in Navajo is X. So, you're spelling Guadalcanal. The first A you come to, you say Walachi. The second A on Guadalcanal, you say Belasana. The third one, you say Tsenit. So, every letter of the English alphabet had 3 code words, so that there's no repetition. So with that, they graduated now to test the code. America was getting ready to go on the offensive. Marine, 1st Marine Division was in Australia, 2nd Marine Division in New Zealand. They send code talkers to the 1st Marine Division because they were the first to go on the offensive. On August 15, 1st Marine Division hit the beach on the island of Guadalcanal, the first invasion in the Pacific, with about a dozen Navajo code talkers that were trained. So it was the first time that the Navajo code was used in the first initial landing on Guadalcanal. 3 weeks after the landing, General Vandergrift, commander of the 1st Marine Division, sent word back to the United States and said, this Navajo code is terrific. The Japanese never understood it. We don't understand it, but it works. So send us some more Navajos. So with that word from General Vandergrift, the word got back to the commandant. The commandant says, go ahead, recruit all the Navajos you want, process them through the same system that you use. Boot camp, combat training, and then the code school. Started with 29 young Navajos in 1942. By 1945, there were 450 of us, trained as regular Marines and then code talkers. And we were in every invasion: Guadalcanal, Bougainville, Cape Cluster, New Britain, Tarawa, Macon, Powhatan, Inuitok, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Guam, Hallelujah, a cousin of mine with whom I joined, was killed right on the beach, first wave to land. Iwo Jima, Okinawa, some of us end up in North China. Every landing, major landing in the Pacific, Navajo code was used. It was so good. They preferred, Marines, Navy preferred Navajo code to be used, number one, because it was very efficient and also without mistake, and no one, the enemy could not understand. To show you, to give you an example of how it works. First of all, at every landing, some code talkers will be assigned to the infantry unit that's going to land first. So Navajo code talkers are always the first to land. Why? Because the commanders watching an operation and also directing the operation want to know as soon as he hit the beach what the casualty rates are. All in Navajo. You don't want the enemy to know it. You also want, they want information back in Navajo as to where the enemy fires are coming from by coordinates, so that the other units could be directed to fire on those. Also, to report back the supply situation. When you land, right behind you, you're supposed to have ammunition delivered to the beach. Sometimes they get blown up, so you're sitting out there on the beach with little or no ammunition, no hand grenades. And you don't want the enemy to know that